Christmas Eve at St. James Church at the corner of Madison Avenue and 71st Street is a pretty grand occasion. I served in that church for 7 Christmases. One I remember in particular, we would process, much as we used to do here before COVID, down the side and around and up the center. And on this particular occasion, the church was spectacularly decorated. The professional choir was raring to go, 400 people in the church. We'd been anticipating this for weeks. And as I rounded the back corner singing the hymn, I noticed there were 2 young men who looked exactly like the kind of people who might wander into church on Christmas Eve without having much familiarity with the tradition. There are people who know what church is about who come on Christmas and Easter. But if you really don't know anything about church, you probably don't even know when Easter is. But Christmas has enough of a cultural hold that people think, oh, maybe I'll go see what church is like on Christmas. So these 2 young guys, casually dressed, looked like they were maybe in it for amusement, had found the hymn. They were singing, and just as I got to the corner, they were way in the back, and just as I went past them, we got to, "Lo, he abhors not the virgin's womb." And they busted out laughing. And I really couldn't blame them. It held a mirror right up to me about what kind of thing are we doing here? I don't worry that the language of our tradition is dead or wrong in the sense that we traditionalists... Now, I'm going to stop there. As much as I know how much it pains some of you to be identified as traditionalists, if you are here and it's not your first time, some part of you has some little dose of traditionalism in you. I don't worry that we traditionalists, I don't worry that I myself might wake up one day and say, oh, wait a minute, we've all been duped and brainwashed and this is all a bunch of nonsense. But I do worry that our language is becoming unintelligible to the world more quickly than we sometimes realize, and that makes me uncomfortable. That's what sent a jolt of anxiety through my body when I saw these young men bust out laughing in the middle of the processional hymn. This morning's collect made me a little uncomfortable in the same way. Increase in us true religion, we just prayed. Somebody who walked in this morning with an idea of Christian faith and spirituality that has been primarily formed by television or the news could be forgiven for guessing that by true religion we must mean an established set of beliefs that we hold to be true in opposition, and this is important, the opposition is important, in opposition to some other set of beliefs that would constitute false religion. Or that true religion involves a set of ritual actions prescribed for all humanity, and woe to those who don't get on board. Or that a Christian's faith can essentially be reduced to the assurance that we are just, as awkward as it is to say out loud, a little better than other people because we think, believe, and do right things and others do not. I'm always reminded whenever Jesus accuses the disciples or the Pharisees or the people of Israel or anybody of being hypocrites, reminded of something that, remark that was made to me by a clergyman who worked in this church some years ago, Jonathan Voorhees, who got going. He was good at a rant when he got going. And he got on a rant about hypocrisy, and he said, people are always telling me how the church is so full of hypocrites. And I tell them, I see hypocrisy everywhere I go in this life. The church is just my little corner of it. The assumption that a Christian's faith could be essentially reduced to the assurance that we're better than other people, less hypocritical, that we have special insight that others do not. In our particular cultural moment, these assumptions about the definition of what religion is, never mind true religion, are especially difficult because these assumptions are supported by this very strange partnership of unwitting bedfellows, the fundamentalists on one side and the anti-religionists on the other, who, in spite of themselves, are in perfect agreement about what religion is. Their only disagreement is on the question of whether it is the essential ingredient of human well-being or a bunch of primitive rubbish that functions primarily in opposition to human well-being. The fundamentalists and the anti-religionists agree on what true religion is, and they're both wrong. Increase in us true religion. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they thoroughly wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders, and they do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it, and there are many other traditions that they observe, the washing of cups, pots, and bronze kettles. So before we go down the anti-Semitic road that so much of Christian history beckons us to go down, look at those superstitious, self-righteous, legalistic tribalists, let's consider the picture that is actually portrayed. The washing of vessels before God, reverently, maybe even the washing of these vessels for God, sounds like a beautiful ritual to me. It reminds me of being in the altar guild, being in the sacristy with the altar guild. What is wrong with that? And could not those rituals be one aspect of true religion? Surely true religion must be more than that rare revelation of some exterior truth penetrating the earth and human consciousness like some missile from outer space. Surely true religion must be religion that responds to the truths that we see and experience and know. We have hard truths all around us. People suffer and despair and die as victims of monstrous cruelty in Afghanistan. People suffer and despair and die as victims of generational oppression and racism and indifference in Haiti. People cower in fear and danger at this very moment in the path of the hurricane hitting the Gulf Coast. Increase in us true religion. Because any religion that explains these hard truths away or that begins with an explanation for why the speaker himself has been spared the fate of the miserable is not responding to the truths that we see and know and experience. Standing here speaking to you now, I have not only been spared the worst, I have been almost totally spared. I have not been the victim of violence or oppression or assault. But the proclamation that so I don't want to dismiss the feeling that many humans have, and some of you in this room may have, that something that has happened to you from the outside might leave you feeling defiled or stained. But the truth that resonates for me, that I can relate to this morning, is that what defiles is what comes out of you. The ugly things that well up from your heart, from my heart. The end of the reading refers to keeping oneself unstained. In speaking for myself, I can tell you that the times when I have felt the most stained by the ways of the world are the times when I have said and done things that were unkind or callous or cruel or indifferent. When I have failed to respond to the distress of the orphan, the widow, the neighbor. If anyone think they are religious and do not bridle their tongues, but deceive their hearts, their religion is worthless. But we know, again, from the truth of our own experience, that the tradition of our religion is not worthless. And even when we might least expect it, that is what we hear from Jesus. In the gospel reading this morning, he quotes Isaiah. "This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrine." What is Jesus doing quoting a 600-year-old religious text, if not affirming the life-giving value of religious tradition? When James says that we are to be doers of the word and not hearers merely, he doesn't say we are not to be hearers. The doing is the response to the hearing. Much as it might irk the millions of secularists whose greatest secular saint is the Christian pastor Martin Luther King Jr., when he published his rules for nonviolent action, the very first one was meditate on the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. Hear the word, and then do. My prayer for myself, for you, for this congregation, is that all of our religious observances, all of our practices, all of our washing of bronze kettles would form us ever more deeply into the particular people that God creates and calls us to be, in full confidence that the people God creates and calls us to be are those who respond with the true religion of caring for the orphan and the widow in distress. Amen.